Welcome to Builds with Blocks, a show centered around the micro action figures and brick-based construction sets of the Halo universe. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, and I'm joined by Tom Fishenden.
Life finds a way!
And Matt Salvatore.
Ahoy, ahoy, how we doing?
This is a big show, ladies and gentlemen, a big one. We are doing Warthogs. This is the Warthog show. We'll be discussing all 25 Warthogs that have been released by Mega over the years and breaking down our favorites. So buckle up. Before we get into the main topic of the show, let's chat about what we've been up to on the building front. Tom, why don't you start? What have you been doing have you been building? Have you been doing photography? What have you been doing?
Yeah, so I've got two things. I have done some photography, as per normal. I've not really had as much time to do photography lately as I would like, mainly because obviously, as anyone who follows us on Twitter will know, I am more focused on Jurassic Park than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And Jurassic June is rapidly coming round, so I've been doing a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff to get some cool content in place for that and some podcasts for other channels and things like that. But I've managed to shoot a couple of photos, and then the main thing I've done is this guy who people listening may have heard of, called Colin, has been able to hook me up with the buildable ships that I have been missing from the collectible micro action figure series.
Well, I haven't hooked you up yet, so
you're in the process
be nice
of
to
hooking
me.
me up. Yeah. I mean, okay, so in which case, this guy who you will have definitely heard of, because he is clearly the best host here, known as Colin, will be hooking me up with those buildable ships.
There we go. Yeah, I felt bad for you. I was like, when you told, it was back to the second or third episode, I think, you were like, I don't have these things yet, because I missed the first one. I was like, oh, man. And I've gone around, as we all hunt, right? Like, I remember finding like a box where there was just one bag left, and the only bag was the ship. It's like, well, I have to take this, right? So I grabbed a couple of them along the way, and I had a few extra. So happy to pass those on.
I appreciate that. I think it is strange as well in some ways, because obviously being in the UK, I know that we're getting all of the Halo Infinite sets now, and I've had a couple of retailers confirm that they'll be stocking them, which is exciting. But obviously with things like Clash on the Ring, for example, I've had to import all of that stuff. So when it comes to stuff like that, I tend to be quite picky, and I tend to just go for the army builders, as you'll have seen in the video I did on the series. So because of that, it does mean that I do sometimes miss out on the more unique things, purely because it just, I don't know, it's a lot harder to justify importing stuff. You kind of have to really think about what it is you're getting your hands on, and kind of for me, I have to be able to justify using it in photographs and things like that, so it kind of negates the cost of it a little bit.
Yep, that makes sense. Well, cool, Matt. How about yourself?
Ooh, not too much. Beginning of this week was actually pretty Halo heavy. I decided for the first time to play through the Halo Reach on MCC, so I got to see it in all its Xbox One glory, and then that got me into the Halo mood, the Reach mood. So I finally pulled the trigger on I think it's called the defensive sword base with the skirmishers.
Skirmishers, yeah.
Skirmishers, yeah. I think I might be saying that wrong, but I was actually really impressed with how they did them, because the quality on them is pretty detailed, and I was really kind of liking it. I was okay with the Spartans, but the skirmishers.
There you
go.
We're off to a great start, boys.
I'm editing this all out in post.
Yeah.
The skirmishers.
There you go.
And then, so about halfway through the week, we got some awesome news for HBO Max, and so I kind of left the Halo and went over to the DC side of things. So I'm coming back to Halo right now, but yeah, release the Snyder Cut.
Cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go. All right, I will go quickly. So I did some building. I built my Warthog finally. I'll comment on that a little bit. The thing is, it's a beast. It's a massive beast. That's all I'll say about it right now. And I also got my hands on the UNSC RocketHog, which is one that we'll talk about briefly as well. So I built that. As a part of that purchase, I finally got my hands on a Prophet of Truth chair. I'm so excited. Yes. So I got the Shadow Convoy set. It's not complete, but I think it's close. I haven't built the Shadow itself, but all I really wanted was the chair. So now I finally have something for Prophet. So now I have two Prophets of Truth. I have the Halo Heroes one, and now I have this guy. And they're basically the same. So I'm super excited to add that to my collection. I'll be on the hunt for 2 more chairs eventually. Hopefully I can justify those purchases. But and there's some unique pieces in that build as well. So I have it, and it's on my shelf, and I'm super excited about that. I did a little hunting as well. I popped in here and there when I could. Found a few Clash in the Ring Marines and an extra Covenant ship for someone that I might know. So that was successful. I also pulled out my 20-1 Scorpion. I think we've talked about that a couple times on these shows, and I finally, it was buried in my closet that I organized recently, and I pulled it out, and now it's accessible. So now it's like a threat to being built now, which is good.
Nice. So you've started a book like David does, where he's put the bookmark in the book.
Exactly. Yeah. It's within reach now.
It's in reach. Within reach, we might touch on reach later.
There you go. Very nice. I did get and received. I think I mentioned last episode that I ordered Claptrap and Raphael from the Mega Construx Heroes line. So now I have them in my possession, and they're. I haven't opened them yet. I'm waiting to. I want to have. My office is going to be where the current nursery is for baby number 3. So once he's ready to get out of there, I'll move an office in there and set up. So
nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Hopefully that's not too far down the road. So yeah, I've been pretty busy doing stuff, and also prepping for this show. This thing is gonna be, I don't know. This could be a beefy show. We'll find out what happens. We had a good conversation with Sal, and that was a long way to cut that bad boy into two slices. So we'll see how this goes. There's 25 Warthogs. It's crazy. When we were making this list, we're like, oh yeah, there's maybe like 10 or 12, right?
Yeah.
And then Matt started compiling this list, and it was like, I got like 20, 21. And then I'm like, what about this one and this one? And then we had a couple other people check. So this thing has ballooned up to 25 total Warthogs. We're not going to cover each one in depth. We actually did a little vote between the 3 of us, the 3 hosts, and the majority wins unless you're the dual mode Warthog.
Then all 3 of us want to look at it because it's that good.
Yeah, exactly. So what we did is we did a vote, and whatever had the most vote, it's just 3 of us. So if you had 2 votes, then you're going to make it into our deep dive. So we'll go through everything that has a deep dive. We'll leave it a surprise for now. I think that'll be fun. So you'll find out as we discuss this, and we're going to talk about these in release order. So starting with the UNSC Warthog at the very beginning, all the way down to the Warthog run. Actually, so I guess spoilers, we're bookended by 2 highlights, right? So that'll be fun to highlight those 2. The other thing to note, I guess, is we'll try to be as technically accurate as possible, but there's a lot of nuances that are just very technical in the Halo universe with the Warthog. So we might get a couple of things wrong, so a little patience on that front. But a lot of our commentary will be about how it looks and how it was built, and we'll do some figures and accessories conversation. So it'll be fun to dive into our favorites as we go down the line. Anything you guys want to add before we start?
Yeah, just to touch on the technical side. I mean, I can't even really pronounce a species within the Covenant, so fuck up.
Yeah, right.
I was just going to say thank you for all of the support that we've been getting with the other episodes as well.
Yeah.
Purely because we were discussing it before we started recording, but it's been really, really lovely seeing how many people are engaging with the show, are enjoying the show, are commenting and saying that they're fans of Mega Construx or Mega Bloks, and we actually get some really cool comments of people leaving their thoughts and their opinions. And I do want to shout out a lot of people who have taken the time out to come over from the Mega Construx forums as well. And so for anyone who doesn't know, on megaconstrux.com there is a forum and also a gallery. That gallery is where I put a lot of my toy photography, and I know that other people upload a lot of content there, and we've actually seen a really good number of people coming over from that place, that hub website to come and check things out here, which has been really, really awesome. So it's nice seeing a lot of names that I recognize from those forums and conversations over there as well. So thank you for your support, and hopefully we will continue to put out lots of really fun episodes that you can all enjoy.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah. I was just going to shout out Richard Martin with All Bricks Count. And he's a great resource out there. Go check his YouTube channel out. And he's got a Facebook group. He spends a lot of time building not only Mega. He does Star Wars. He does lots of pretty much anything brick based that he's interested in. He does stop motion. He does he does reviews and just thought videos and time lapse stuff. So go check out his channel. I've tapped into him for a little bit because he has a video out there that has all of the Warthogs. There might be one that he's missing. It's kind of a hidden one anyway, but we'll mention that. But he's a fantastic resource, and we really appreciate his support with this episode as well.
Okay, I actually wanted to shout out iPhotani on Twitter. Dude's awesome over there. He's constantly bringing a whole truckload of positivity, always comments on our videos. Really nice individual out there. So shout out to you. Thank you so much for your support and your kind words and your awesome little videos that are actually really hilarious.
Awesome. Cool. Well, let's dive into it then. Let's go way back. Over 10 years ago. Well, yeah, over 10 years ago, 2009. Back to the very first Warthog that was ever created. And Matt's going to highlight this one for us. What do you have about this first Warthog, Matt?
All right. The OG. If you were like hoping that this was going to transport you somewhere, it won't because it'll fall apart.
Yes.
So the OG Warthog right here is actually kind of, I guess it's the starting point from which all the other Warthogs will evolve from. It has some excellent detail to it that I think if you looked at it, you obviously, it screams, yeah, this is a Warthog. It's a little stripped down, and obviously the suspension system is kind of crumbly. But as a whole, I think what this set kind of introduces is because I remember when I first got this set, and it was, the quality of it wasn't as good, but there was something about it just carrying that Halo brand or that recognizable look as a Warthog that just immediately made it and endeared it to me, that it's such an excellent little vehicle. I mean, because I look at it and, you're playing the game and you look at it and you're like, I have a Warthog and it's in buildable form. And it's that kind of moment that I think kind of just made me love Mega Construct, was that it took something from the game and it gave me it in a buildable form. So it isn't the best. I mean, the dual Warthog's definitely worse than this, but this one has a lot of nostalgia and I think a lot of goodwill with me because of the build. And I guess it is kind of the primero, the first one that we see kind of this evolution from the other Hog. So is it
from Halo 3? Does that make sense?
I was thinking it was the Halo Wars version of the Hog.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah, it's Halo Wars version. Yeah, it is 2009. Yeah. Okay.
So a couple of things that this doesn't feature, which I guess later ones will, but the turret is stationary. So obviously when you really only have one attack position because the turret cannot spin. There's no chairs. But there is a steering wheel. There's just a couple of things that, like I said, it kind of feels more like a stripped down version. And this is kind of something that I've always thought about Mega Construct, was that or Mega Bloks at the time, but their first initial sets felt so much more customizable because I guess they were kind of bare bones. So you could kind of build off of it and add stuff to it and kind of make it feel a little more yours. As of the Warthogs that progressed later on, they're already perfect, so you don't really need to change much of them. But this Warthog is definitely the stickers weren't as good, but I definitely love this Warthog. The color, just the overall look just screams Warthog. It screams Halo for me.
Yeah, it's got like the little hooks in the front, or like I didn't acquire this one until a little bit later, and the little hooks are kind of loose on the front, just the way that it was built. I mean, I think it was just like the bricks themselves didn't fit together quite as well as they do now.
Yeah.
And they've obviously improved that tenfold. But there's little nuances to that, and then it also when you don't use this anymore, a lot of these hogs do, but the little removal pieces, the yellow blocks, they definitely use that during the build. And then just it's funny to look back at their first take on the antenna, right? It's just that now like the antenna that we have now, it's like the antenna they've used forever once they figured it out. But that this is the first iteration on just that basic little antenna that they have on there.
The stickers of the little fire hydrant on it, and just it's just kind of like, oh, this is so cute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Any other comments on this thing, Tom?
It came with a turret that was horrible too.
Oh, a separate turret?
With the Combat Elite.
Yeah, it came with a Combat Elite.
Oh, the Covenant turret. Yeah.
Yeah, two Spartans, and the turret that it came with was no bueno.
Do you remember what it cost?
Sorry, it was $15.99 for me.
That's 15? Not bad. That's not bad at all.
That was one of the main reasons why I bought it, because I mean when this came out I was super young, so I didn't have a whole lot of spending money. So I mean I was able to kind of pick this up and the B2 turret, so I was like walking on air or on a Halo.
It's quite easy to forget how good these sets were and continue to be when you compare them to rivals like Lego. I mean, there is just no comparison on the price per piece.
Oh, for sure,
rating. I was going to ask you, did this set have the headlights that have been in most of the sets, where they're like the printed mirror pieces almost? Well, not mirror pieces, but they've kind of got that shiny color. Or was this before they started doing that bit that goes on top of the roll bar area?
Before, so this does have headlights, but they're stickers, and they went on the, I guess, right where the Colin was talking about, those little hook pieces near the tires. They go right behind those.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm looking on Mattel, and it looks like MSRP is $19.99 for this thing. Oh, really? So you probably got it on a little bit of a discount for whatever reason.
Okay. I was thinking about when I got it. Yeah, you're probably right.
And then 173 total pieces go into this. So that includes the hog itself and then also the turret. And I think they count the individual pieces of the figures, right, in that piece count?
Fairly sure they do, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Should, yeah.
All right. Cool. Should we move on?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So that was the 2009, the first iteration of the Warthog. And then in 2010, they came out with 3 different hogs. And we're not going to feature any of them, but we'll list them all off. So we have the UNSC GaussHog versus Covenant Locust, which was, I mean, I've been trying to get a hold of this set, and I haven't sought it out too hard. It's mainly because of the Locust. I love the Locust, but since then I have gotten my hands on one of them, and I have realized that the build of the Locust just isn't that great. Like it looks cool, but it's not very sturdy.
Which one did you get? Did you get the later Target one, or did you get the first one?
The one I got, and it was in a random lot, so it wasn't in great condition, but it was the red versus blue one.
Yeah, cool. That's the one I've got. Cool.
Yeah. So, but the hog itself, I guess, are there any comments on the hog? It's built similarly, I believe, as the original. It's got some.
Yeah, they are very similar in design, except for the gun.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm sure that this one has got a slightly boxier design for the flatbed at the back as well. Like I really should have pulled a picture up ahead of time, but I am sure that I remember wanting this because the back of it looked a little bit more armored, so it would be cool to see if they potentially revisited this and did it as kind of like, I don't know, in a similar spirit to Aerial Ambush. I think that this is one of the sets that could really, really work well as a remake, because I think it's still quite unique.
It changed the hooks. So the hooks that we talked about last time, I think it's the only set that has that. These are the hooks now that we still have today on the front of this build. Suspension is about the same. It's just that back, the back of the hog is very different than anything that we've seen. It has a little light on it as well, and that's a little bit unique as well.
Well, isn't it the only GaussHog that's actually in the Halo 2, Halo 3 style? The rest follow the Halo 4, and I've always preferred the Halo 2 GaussHog design over the newer ones.
The gun itself, you mean?
Yeah, for the gun itself, yeah. And Tom's right. The back is broader. I remember you could actually kind of sit a Marine or a Spartan on the side of it. So if you wanted the guy on the gun, it still left room to put like a fourth person, a fourth figure on, so you could kind of have 4 guys on your hog.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, so let's move on. Also in 2010 was the UNSC RocketHog, and this is the white one. And this is the one that Brickman117 said was his first one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he this is the one that he bought and then just kind of sat on the shelf for a while until he decided to build it. And I wonder if some of that was because it was white, it wasn't the green, the UNSC green that we're so used to, perhaps. So the rocket build is a little odd to me. Coming back to this, I didn't collect originally, but coming back to this, like the way that rocket looks, it just seems a little, I don't know, underdone maybe is the right word for it.
I think I was going to say, I think that this was kind of a case of, obviously it's accurate to CE, but also they had just started. So whereas now at the moment we are really lucky in terms of the fact that we tend to get unique pieces for sort of nearly every set now, this was kind of back when they were really experimenting with reusing different pieces. So I think this will be the same piece as the chain gun turret with a new front nozzle. It looks very, very similar.
Sure.
Because I remember that a popular thing that people used to do was, obviously before Halo Wars 2 we never had a flame hog, but it was always a popular concept. So because these things were swappable, people used to take the old nozzles from the flamethrowers of the very original flamethrower Marines from Halo Wars and put them onto this body. It's different, but I think it's kind of, again, back when they were experimenting with customizability, like Matt said, and letting people kind of take it and run with it.
Yeah.
Just to build on that, I think it's worth mentioning is, there's 25 of these things. Some of them are small and little odd ones. Well, and one of them is giant. But they learned over the years, to your point, right? So they came up with a new one and they're like, oh, I really like this element. This element worked. Now here's the new one. And then they, when they're planning the next version of it, they make changes based on the game and things like that. But a lot of those building elements or those molds are carried through. So by the time we get to the one that just came out recently in 2019, it's really the best of the best from all of that, over 10 years of learning.
It's kind of taking all of that and building with it. I do want to point out here as well, I can't tell if they're stickered or not. It's very possible that they are. But this is the point where they've started bringing in those additional headlights I mentioned on the last build. So very iconic for the Warthog, obviously, having them just above the windscreen. And I think, looking at the photo it's up on screen, I can't quite tell. But I think they may have been printed.
That's printed.
Purely because, I remember this is a good example of one of the few times where Mega have, obviously before they started doing it for every decal, they would kind of print very rare things. So an interesting thing with just the Warthogs as a whole is the fact that in every set, although you had decals, because of the kind of colour that they had, because they were a little bit reflective, the light strip in every Warthog from this point out that's got them, because some of them don't, would have had that printed. And that was kind of like the precursor to eventually getting every single detail in the sets printed like we do today.
Yep, absolutely.
I will say, just on this RocketHog compared to the previous two, this one had a sturdier feel to it, a stronger build quality. So even after the first two, you could kind of tell that Mega was taking and refining it even more, just on the pieces connecting a little better and everything just kind of feeling a little more locked in.
Yeah, definitely. Like this is like after the first iteration, things start to get better from the build point, and the crumbling just it doesn't happen as much. So just kind of the early sets. All right, the next one, also in 2010, was the UNSC Troop Transport Warthog, which was the red version of the Warthog, and this was a Target exclusive, which most likely is why it was the red one. But also there's a whole red versus blue. We won't really talk about that one that much because I am going to dive into the Covenant Strike, which is the green version of the same thing, same exact build. But this thing was a Walmart exclusive. and it had 9 figures that came with it. It's just insane, this thing. Great value. Came out in 2011, $29.99 for the troop transport itself, the vehicle, the 9 different figures, and it had 207 total pieces that came with it. It reminded me, and I played Halo Wars recently, but it reminded me more, and I'm sure Halo Wars shared assets with the other Halo versions or Halo games, but it reminds me more of the Halo 3 Warthog that you see in Savo Highway. So remember when you're chief and you just fell out down the elevator, and you're kind of bumbling around, right? And you're like, which Warthog am I going to jump in? This is the one that you didn't jump in.
Yeah. I was so worried you were going to say, I took the transport version every time.
Yeah, exactly.
I did. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you took the one with the gun on it. You took the Warthog, the chain gun. But so this is the one that's sitting there, and it's fun to see that in the design that carried through on this thing. Another interesting thing is on the box itself, and I didn't get a brand new unboxed one. I got one in a lot, and I was lucky enough that it was complete. I think I got some of the figures, but not all of the figures. I didn't get the stickers yet, so mine's just naked, but I don't mind it naked. I kind of like it. On the box itself, it says "Build Your Army," which makes a ton of sense, right? Because there's 9 figures in this thing. Yep. There is 1 Spartan. There are 2 Marines. They're all in like this tan color. There's 2 elites, 2 little tiny meaty grunts, and then 2 brutes as well. So this is a really good value, I think, for $30.
Nice. I always wanted this set. I never was able to track it down. Yeah. I loved it because it was, first off, it was green, and it came with all these guys. I mean, I owned the Target exclusive one, but I never really used that one because it was red. And as like a military standpoint, you wouldn't have a red vehicle because it's like, shoot me here. They really are painting a target on it.
Exactly.
I mean, if it's red, it's explosive, right?
Yeah. It's one of those Warthogs that you just like drive into something.
Right. Yeah.
Or if you're just like doing it on like a lava world, you can be totally fine.
The build itself, I think it's pretty similar to what we've seen so far. A couple enhancements along the way here and there, and then it obviously has on the back section of the Warthog, it has where you can put your troops in. The only thing that I thought they could have added is maybe some stud. Like, I like how it's smooth in the back, but maybe a couple studs where you could just stick somebody's foot into it, or I guess I'm forgetting how they're portrayed in game, if they're sitting in this back area or if they should be standing. The middle bar that crosses it, you can hook a hand onto, but it gets a little crowded when you put more than 2 figures in the back.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
So in the game, there's actually seats in it. There's like the seats in the middle on either side, and then you have figures that sit kind of like on the back bit facing outwards as well. So it would be cool, because I mean they've reused this sculpt 3 times total now. So it would be interesting to see if maybe this type of hog appears in Infinite, or if it appears again in the future, if we maybe get a new sculpt for it. Because I mean, all of the cage and everything could stay the same because it's really good and it's pretty spot on. But you could just change the bit that goes on the middle floor segment.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, cool. Let's move on. Speaking of no seats, speaking of no suspension, there's EVA's Last Stand, which is a cool set as a display piece, but there's the playability factor is a little bit lacking, right? Because it is just the cab, the upper portion of the hog itself. You do get two hunters with it, which is great, and then you get a cool little EVA Spartan as well. So check that one out. Any quick comments on EVA's Last Stand?
Actually, this was one of the ones that I was highlighting.
Okay.
So actually, the unique thing about this Warthog is, it doesn't have the suspensions, but you start seeing an even greater detail on the body. So this is the first Warthog to include chairs. And more importantly, this is the first Warthog to include a gun that spins. So we actually have a game accurate mounted gun in the back, could spin 360. So I think that's kind of shows you
Yep.
how it evolved from the first Warthogs we've had in prior to this have all been locked position guns. And this one really kind of took, I would say, probably the most significant leap in quality and design to the other ones. This one also was able to be paired with another Warthog later on in the series that Tom's going to cover, so you can actually switch it out so the suspension system works and everything. But I always thought this was kind of one of the more unique ideas, was that it wasn't a complete Warthog, yet it had probably the best design overall compared to the other ones.
Sure.
So I've always been very impressed with this one, and I've always kind of liked the idea of the Last Stand Warthog. So I always liked this set, and I always thought it was kind of neat. And I think its design speaks for itself, that it's spot on.
It's cool as a concept piece. I do like how, I mean, you don't get the whole thing, which is, I guess, again, from a playability standpoint, is a little frustrating. But you do get all of the pieces for the top. You know, they're just in the build themselves. They're scattered about as if they just got hidden by one of those hunter guns. So so that part is definitely interesting.
Oh, and this one retailed for me for $21.99, and it had a piece count of 169. So not a whole lot of pieces, but a whole lot of innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The seats and then the chain gun turret, which are new for sure.
I remember this being a really good way to get the new Hunter mold as well. Or
Correct.
Yeah. No, yeah, it was a new mold because the arm was new. So you got the actual proper fuel rod cannon for the Hunter. And I was going to say, taking what you were saying a step further with details, Matt, I love the printed cracked windscreen on this. I am so upset that I've lost mine, because I wanted to put it on a Warthog Resistance Warthog for ages. But I just think that having that extra kind of interchangeable part so you can do battle damage on other versions of the Warthog was really, really awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
Very cool. Yeah, sorry about that. I forgot that you were gonna highlight that when I had something else, but that was another feature of our highlight. So let's do actually, we'll do the one that it goes with. So we'll do the UNSC RocketHog versus anti-aircraft gun next. Tom, what do you have?
Yeah. So this set released in 2011. It had 537 pieces, and it retailed for $59.99. Or £59.99. And this set depicts the M12 Warthog, which I had to frantically Google before we started this episode.
Well, yeah, they're all M12s, right? It's like the base Warthog, and they stick everything else on top of it, and they throw a letter in the back end of it if it's a Halo 4 Warthog. So yeah, they're all M12s. Yeah.
But I feel like this is the first set that really begins to kind of get the characteristic features of the Warthog right. So obviously Matt mentioned in EVA's Last Stand, you have got a lot more detail, and that is really, really present here. You've got new sculpted pieces on the side. They are slope pieces which capture some of the engraved details on the Warthog. You've got a smoother design for the bumper on the back. You have obviously got all of the lights and everything now because they've made those innovations, and you have got it in this really nice new dark green color that they did for the sets which came out alongside Halo Reach, which is arguably my favorite color scheme that we've seen on UNSC vehicles, because it felt very authentic and very military. But obviously the big takeaway here is this is the RocketHog, so it featured a brand new mold. Completely brand new for the rocket turret on the back, which attaches to the same kind of pivot piece that the normal turret attaches to. So what that means is this is interchangeable with any Warthog from this point. So I was really lucky in terms of the fact that I was able to get 2 of this set when I was younger. So I actually have the rocket pod from this on my second Warthog Resistance Warthog, which looks really cool.
That's cool.
So I have to send you photos of that at some point. It's really cool being able to swap that out and being able to get these unique parts. Now, this is one of the first big sets that I've really got, so I have a lot of love for it. I could talk about it a lot more, but obviously I don't want to eat too much time up on this set. But one thing I would say is this is a really good example of Mega getting creative with the actual format of a mission in a Halo game. So this set, apart from the figures being different and a brute being included in it, perfectly depicts a sequence from Tip of the Spear in Halo Reach, where you use the RocketHog as Noble 6 with Cat to go and take out these Tyrant turrets and begin the assault on the Covenant canopy. So I think that having a set that so perfectly encapsulates one of the best missions in Halo, in my opinion, is really, really awesome. And it's a testament to how Mega can really authentically create things from the game when they put their mind to it and kind of follow a narrative format with their sets as well. I was going to say one thing we saw introduced this year as well, which came in the Phantom as well, is Covenant weapon crates. And they came in this set as the Phantom and some of the other sets in this year's waves.
And those are awesome. Those little weapon crates, they are awesome. The only thing I would say that would make this set better, and I love what you were talking about, that it was styled towards an actual mission, would have been to have included characters that actually looked like Noble Team, instead of just generic. I think it was I'm forgetting what Spartan they gave you.
Hazop.
Yeah, exactly. And I was always wishing that they had just kind of done a more, because I know in the Falcon you have like a cat kind of style Spartan.
Yeah.
But I was hoping that they kind of leaned more into that. And I always love where Mega's gone, where they've customized the universe. Back then it was very bland, and the characters that you love were kind of generic in the sets, and now now we have Johnson and everything like that. So I think having it geared toward a level and having it with the characters in that level is peak awesome. And I want to touch back on that in another Warthog. I got a question for you guys.
Cool. Did we mention the color for the EVA stand? Because is that the tan, or is that's more of the champagne color, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Same
so we
color as the Mammoth.
Yep. And then the Brute Prowler.
Yeah. Right. Yep. And so now we have a couple different versions, couple different colors of the Warthog that we've received as collectors and just enthusiasts of Halo. Now we have this beast, this big Halo Anniversary Edition UNSC Warthog. This thing is huge. Do either of you have this, by the way?
No.
I did.
You did?
I had.
Oh no.
I had. Well, okay. So a friend ended up giving me just a tub of a collection of his stuff, and the Warthog pieces were all there. The majority of the build was there. The gun was not, but I had it back when I was younger, so it never really survived. So it just kind of gotten piece by piece, has been taken apart and used to customize other stuff.
You've parted it out. Oh man.
Yep. I know.
It could look pretty rad though, like if it's in pieces, like it just crashed or something like that. I like
it's a destroyed Warthog.
Yeah. But it's very good. I tracked this thing down right when I started collecting because I thought it was so special, and it is. It's a very cool build. It looks great, and definitely recommended to go grab this thing if you haven't already. It's it's got the seats that you build. It's a different scale. It's much bigger, something that you can put on a shelf and appreciate. The one little nuance I think many people have talked about, maybe even Sal brought up in the last episode, is it would be cool to have a figure that would be the size to fit in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wonder if the old Metalons figures that they did way back in the day are in scale with this thing.
I don't think they are. You're talking about the ones, the magnetic ones?
Yeah, where you could clip on and off the armor.
I'm pretty sure they're too big, but feel free to comment and let us know if you know differently. But definitely worth checking out and owning if you're gonna try to collect all these. Grab that. The other little one we want to mention is the Metal Series Warthog. It's just we're gonna mention it. We'll show it to you here. It's a little tiny thing. It's a cool little run that they did, a little idea that Mega had at the time. Much smaller than the the regular builds, and clearly much smaller than the big one that we just talked about. So if you're interested, those are out there on eBay. You can still find those at a pretty decent price. The next one we want to talk about, so that was 2011 also. This last one is the last one of 2011. And my count, in 2011, they released 6 different versions of the Warthog. It's crazy. Busy year. I think it was also lead up to Halo 4, so maybe, it's kind of peak Halo time. But the Halo CE UNSC Warthog. This thing is beautiful, and it wasn't exclusive to PAX, my understanding. So I don't have all the history. Do you guys know the history of, like, you had to show up to be able to get the right to buy it? Is that what it was?
You could only buy it at the event, and it came out. I think it was alongside the foil bags that we've mentioned. So the Jackal, the Marine, the Spartan, and the, I want to say, Elite. Fun fact with this one, this was the only way up until, I want to say, Series 5, where you could get a Halo 3 Arbiter.
Yeah, interesting.
Although it's technically not the Halo 3 Arbiter, but it's the closest you could get to it.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because it's titled Halo CE, but the Arbiter isn't in CE. The Warthog itself, I think this Warthog was in CE, like multiplayer, perhaps.
Yeah, it's on the PC version of it.
Okay, so that's in the darker color. And this one, I don't own this one, but when I asked our friend Richard Martin with All Bricks Count, this is his favorite. So, and he kind of cited the simplistic design and the fact that the figures are great. And it is a little more rare, but he thought that this is, and he's built them all. So this is his favorite Warthog package.
Nice.
All right, let's move on to 2012, the next year. And this is the release year of Halo 4. And in the release year of Halo 4, we got the Warthog Resistance, which I think is everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's the chef kiss of Warthogs.
This thing is gorgeous. I love the enhanced design, the what do they call them? Like the bars that they added to it. Yeah. So I love that they added those to the design of the Warthog in Halo 4. It just makes it look meaner, right? Like it just looks tough.
It looks a lot more rugged.
Yeah. They did carry, I don't know if you guys noticed in the Halo 2 anniversary cutscenes, they did pull in this Warthog.
And it's used in the primer that they just released fairly recently for their Halo 2 anniversary one. It's that type of Warthog that's in the garage.
Okay. Yep. So it looks so mean. The color is fantastic. It's that same color that Tom just mentioned, the darker green that they used in the RocketHog. And the detailing just makes it pop so much, right? The silver color of the kind of the roll cage and the back, and now we have these gas tanks in the back. The bumper is a little bit different, and the chain gun. One of the reasons, so this is one that I sought out. It took me a while to find this at a decent price, but it was because of the chain gun, and I didn't want the EVA chain gun because I wanted the whole hog. This thing is brilliant. It's got everything I want out of a Warthog, and it had the thing that's a little weird on this one, and I think it's just the design of the Warthog in Halo 4 is the light on the top with the little rubber hose.
Yeah.
It's a little chubby, and it makes the light kind of turn in where I want it to always go forward.
Yeah.
But other than that, this thing's pristine.
So we might touch on it briefly at the end, but this is obviously the same design as the Infinite Hog. And for those of you who listened in the Infinite episode, you know I mentioned this. But that hose was something a lot of people tended to take off this model just because it got in the way and it stopped you putting a figure in there. But on the Infinite Hog, it looks like they've used the Call of Duty weapon strap piece to make a much thinner and more accurate cable. So it's cool seeing that even little details like that obviously were frustrating with this version are iterated and changed upon in the future.
Yep. This thing retailed originally for $32.99.
Yeah.
And the other thing I just wanted to mention is, we're talking about the level and stuff like that. So the first time you pick this bad boy up is in Requiem. And it's a very sweet find when you get this in Halo 4. My only nuance, and I remember mentioning this in Mission Debrief, is that the sound, I don't really like the Warthog sound in Halo 4. Do you guys recall that at all? It's a little too high pitched.
It is.
Yeah.
Kind of screams at you.
A little whiny.
I think
they have fixed that since.
Yeah, it was kind of like their first time going back and experimenting with a lot more field capture, wasn't it? And I think because they were doing that for the first time, they kind of didn't quite alter it enough from the real life noises.
Yep. Yeah. The other thing to note, I guess, is our suspension has pretty much been the same. Like the way they framed it up has been evolved a little bit throughout, but it's really just been it's really just been these loose. I guess I don't know how to describe the kind of the suspension pieces, but the longer pieces with holes in them. It's just been loose, right? And pretty soon we'll get to a point where they experiment and I would say maybe perfect that aspect. But all of these Warthogs, and it must have been some sort of a requirement in the original build where when you're driving a Warthog in Halo, it bounces all over the place and the wheels are going all over. So they wanted to carry that through. Into the Mega version of it, and they did a good job with it, and they've enhanced it, right? They made it so it actually is a little bit more springy over time.
Originally the first Warthogs, the part that connected the wheel to the body of the Warthog was buildable, and then I think it came about in the anti-aircraft Warthog, it actually was just one singular piece.
Oh,
so
okay.
even then you were seeing that they were reducing the number of pieces it was, and that way they were making it a little sturdier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right, do we want to move on from this beauty?
I'm going to drop one little cool detail on this one that they recreated from the video game. So one of the very, very small stickers creates a really cool detail that this version of the Hog had to introduce it as very much a 343 video game, which is that the number on the Warthog up next to the windscreen is actually 343.
You're right. I see that as I hold it in my hands. Yeah. Very nice. Cool.
It's beautiful.
All right, let's move on from this. I feel like we could almost do a full show on each one of these things.
Yeah.
The next one is also in 2012 is the SnowBound UNSC RocketHog, and this is pretty much the same as the UNSC RocketHog that they released earlier. I'm not sure why they re-released it, just maybe to have another version of it. Maybe they made a couple enhancements. It was probably the bricks were a little bit tighter, I would imagine. Any other thoughts on this thing? It's still got the ghost. The figures are different. Sorry, before I go back, the Warthog Resistance also. Sorry to go back, but the Warthog Resistance included a little Forerunner terrain piece, and then an Elite Zealot, a red Elite Zealot, and then the two Spartans in it are pretty generic. According to the Mega's websites, they're Mark 5B Spartans.
Yeah. You also got the sticky detonator for the first time in that set. And that was a new weapon that previewed ahead of the game's release.
And then you also got the ordnance drop in it too, which is really cool. The little kind of drop thing, they drop out of the sky and then it pops open and gives you more ammo for your guns or a different gun in the game. So that was a cool ad as well. All right, so sorry to backtrack on that.
It's right.
But wanted to mention those as well. So any comments on the SnowBound RocketHog that's different or worth mentioning?
It was a weird wave. So with the SnowBound wave, it was kind of a mixture of released things being re-released. So you got this, and you also got a Locust that came with a Mongoose. And then they did some new sets as well. So you got obviously the SnowBound structure that I picked up recently. And then there were I think there was a SnowBound figure pack, which came with the flags. And then there were two armory packs, a red Elite Commando and a blue Marine, and both of which had got like printed snow details on their boots.
Yeah.
So more just in general, the SnowBound line as a whole was a very weird kind of subline, but it was mega experimenting with doing sublines, and that's something that becomes more prominent in some of the Warthogs later down the line as well.
Yep.
I said Warthog so posh then. Oh my god.
All right, let's move on to 2013. Now we have the UNSC Night Ops GaussHog. This is lights and sounds. It's lights and sounds time. I'm grabbing my Warthog. It was a little far out of reach, so let me see if I can get this thing to.
Oh.
Oh my god, I'm sure that sounded great on the show. But this thing has 5 different sounds that comes with it. And they're all supposed to be in-game sounds. So just something to note. So I have a start in. It starts its engine. It's also the one that you just started was just driving along. There's a Gauss cannon fire, and then there's 2 that are like crashing sounds that I can't quite place. I think maybe this thing runs into something and breaks. But it has multiple sounds, which I think is fun. And then I really like the look of this too. I like the tan color that they used in this thing. The build is pretty similar, almost exactly the same as the Resistance Warthog. But it's got this giant Gauss cannon on the back. This thing is huge. It's actually almost too big because the figure, you can't really put it on there very well. It looks a little weird. So they did their best with this thing, but it's huge. In terms of the build itself, yeah, like I said, it's pretty similar to the Resistance Warthog, which we all really like. It's got the bars on it as well. The first time you see this thing, the Gauss cannon itself in universe in game is on the Reclaimer mission for Halo 4. So definitely check that out. This thing retailed for $32.99, and it has 239 pieces. As mentioned, it has 2 Spartans in it as well, and then we get our first Promethean Knight. It's a Knight Lancer, which is pretty cool.
That's right.
If you're into the Halo 4 enemies and the Prometheans, you get one in this bad boy. It doesn't come with a Watcher.
No,
but yeah.
I think that this. I'm trying to remember, but I think that the year before. See, this is weird. I've been collecting for so long at this point that sets just blend in my head. But I think that Cauldron Clash came out the year before, and then this was the only way to get all of the variants of the knights afterwards. So you kind of had that set that came with the standard knight, 2 crawlers and a watcher, I want to say. And then they kind of did in all of the lights and sound sets, well, in 2 of them, you've got different versions of knights that you could only get in those sets, which was really cool.
Yeah. So it was kind of hard to come by the Prometheans, but you could build them over time. And I built a decent amount of Prometheans. Again, mention of my chess set, I will have a Promethean set as well. But cool. Something to comment on is, and it was also in the Warthog Resistance, is the way that they've done the doorway, the openings on the Warthogs has changed over time. In this one in particular, and the Resistance, they use what I call a little chair piece. To kind of block off the sides of the doorway, whereas previously they've used other slanted pieces or smooth pieces there. But that's something that seems to have evolved over time, and I think almost kind of continues to change as they work on perfecting these things.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, Colin. So I don't own this one. But the hood is a unique piece, isn't it? Because it's got the lights and sounds module in it, yeah.
The whole thing, it's one big piece.
Cool. And can you put super articulated figures on the Gauss cannon any better than the old style ones?
I haven't tried. Maybe I'll mess with it during the show here, but I think they would be. It seems like they would be about the same because I think they're about the same size, right? Maybe you could. Yeah, maybe the fact that you can twist their elbows a little bit might help, but it's just a little oversized.
Yeah.
For the figures themselves, it just looks a little bit goofy. All right, should we move on?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay, so also in 2013, we have the Blue Series RocketHog. Do any of you guys own this thing?
No,
I don't.
I came very close at one point when it was on sale.
Okay.
But I decided not to, because this was like the SnowBound sets. So I don't know if it was Target for you guys, but it was Argos again in the UK for me.
Okay. It looks like the same exact build as I hold the RocketHog that you just featured.
Yeah.
It looks pretty much the same exact build there. But it's blue. It's got a couple Spartans. One of the Spartans kind of looks like Spartan Cat, kind of. But maybe, it's a pilot helmet anyway, and it's got the arms that may be robotic. But yeah, so pretty similar build there, but just worth mentioning that thing. I don't have it part of my collection yet, but I probably will grab it at some point. Now moving on to 2014, we have before we'll mention the small one first. 2014 is the Micro Fleet Warthog Attack, and this is the one that has the helmet and then also like the mini build of the Warthog, which I wanted to add to my collection just to have. And so you have all these different sizes of Warthog. It's more just a shelf piece. It's got a little bit of a Forerunner structure that you can build that pops off of the back helmet. You do get a Master Chief figure along with it. It's just a little nice collectible, I think, that is trying to appeal to a wider audience in my mind.
Yeah. I do want to drop a fun bit of trivia in here about that set.
Yeah.
That set is the wave right before we got super articulated figures. So 2 versions of this set exist. The first 3 sets have got 2 versions, and then the 4th Microfleet set, which was the Falcon, has only got a super articulated figure. So for the first 3 sets, the Warthog, the Hornet, and the Mantis, you can get those figures in either super articulated format or in their classic original articulation.
Very cool.
Interesting.
The next one on the list in 2014 also is the UNSC Flame Warthog. And it took me a while to figure out, where did this thing come from? Like, why is there a flame on this Warthog? This is from Halo. This is like a special skin from Halo Wars. Did you guys know that?
I did not.
Yeah, so that's where it came from. And again, the big tie-in, that's why, this line exists, because of Halo Wars. But it wasn't until I played Halo Wars recently for Mission Debrief that I realized that it had a skin, this random flame skin for the Warthog. And that's where this I guess, the design, the style comes from. And these
That's
things,
so cool.
Yeah, these things aren't stickers, are they? They're built into, they're like prints on the blocks. I believe they are. I don't have mine in front of me, but I believe the blocks have the printed flames on them. You get 2 figures, get a red and a yellow. It's got the nice chain gun build. It's our Halo 4 version of this thing, but with this flame skin on the front of it.
It's actually kind of neat.
It's a really nice build. It contrasts really nicely, because obviously the roll bars are black here and not silver, when compared to Warthog Resistance, which is nice. I think that some of the flame bits are stickers, like the bit on the side where you kind of add it yourself. But then you're right that all of the front hood bits were printed pieces, Colin. And this is kind of where they started playing with prints.
Yes.
So obviously this is the wave that has got the Elephant and a lot of the NMPD sets in it, which were all still stickered. But then by the next year, we got to the point where they were beginning to phase printed pieces in. I think it was the next year, or it might have been the one after.
Yep. Yeah, this whole transition, and some of this has to do with the timeline of like Mattel purchasing Mega, right? There's all that stuff going on right around here, 2014, 2015.
Yeah.
Kind of that buy, and then some of the transition of the super articulated figures, printed pieces, all that stuff is happening in this era here.
So I'm fairly confident. Oh, go on, Matt.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, I'm fairly confident that at this point, or if not just after they introduced the super articulated, we are all now Mattel from this point, purely because I remember one of the events I used to help with, we used to have Mega Bloks come along to it. And then I can remember, I think it was around this time when they brought the prototypes of the NMPD sets along, that it suddenly transitioned to Mattel coming along instead of Mega Bloks.
Very cool.
Okay, I did want to touch on just how I think the idea of having like decals on the Warthog is kind of nice, because it kind of sounds like, I don't know if you guys have watched the Clone Wars series.
Yeah.
Where with the ships, the clones are always decaling the gunships or something like that. And it kind of harkens back to World War II vibes, where soldiers would decal their bombers and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of neat that the idea that maybe the UNSC had a spray paint can and they're kind of customizing their ride. I think
For
that
sure.
would be really kind of neat.
Where's the one with
see.
Sexy Halsey on the front, right?
I know, right? Jeez.
Oh, that's amazing. All right, let's move on. After that thought,
Oh gosh.
we'll go to the UNSC Attack GaussHog. I will just mention that this is the first Mega Block set that I bought when I saw this on shelf. Right around this time, this is 2015. I was like, oh, that has everything I need. It's got a Warthog, it's got Chief, it's got Arbiter. I'm gonna grab this thing. So I remember buying this. I forget if I got it online or off the shelf. The only thing that I wanted differently, and it wasn't until I started collecting, was I wanted a chain gun in the back. Like if this thing had a chain gun, for me, it would be perfect. But they made their decisions, and we have the GaussHog version of it. So Tom, you're gonna go into this one.
Yes. So Colin, I think that you can confirm this because obviously you've got the set with you. I don't. But this is where we began to get printed pieces. Mm-hmm. So this set came out alongside Firebase, alongside Scorpion Sting. Was it called Scorpion Sting, or have I just made that up?
Yep. Scorpion Sting.
No, it was.
Right.
Cool. Okay. And some of the other sets for Halo 5. So obviously right off the bat, not having to put stickers on this one is nice. But what's
right.
even nicer is the fact that this set in particular emulates the PAX Warthog that we touched on earlier.
Yes.
So it includes the same figures. We have got the Halo 5 Master Chief with his cracked visor, and also the Halo 5 version of Arbiter. And an interesting thing to note about these two figures, this is the only mainstream way that you can get these figures, because the only other way to get them was in a San Diego Comic-Con free pack with Spartan Lock. Right. So it's literally the only way you can get the Halo 5 Arbiter that's not an exclusive. And in terms of the rest of the build, the Gauss turret with this one, they went back to the drawing board, took what didn't work with the Night Ops Hog, took out the play features and really trimmed it down. So I believe Colin will be able to confirm that this one's a lot more kind of to scale with the figures that it's included with.
It's a bit more to scale. It's still a little oversized though.
Yeah, I think that's just the case with GaussHogs in general, though. Those turrets are huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it uses the Halo 4 design, so roll bars and cage pieces, and it has the black and yellow color scheme of the PAX Hog as well. Now the set had 229 pieces. It retailed for $24.99 in the US. And an interesting thing to note with this one, because it did release in 2015, so right in that release window for Halo 5 Guardians, it included a rec pack, which is something that they did with all of the sets to tie into the release of the new game. So I believe, because this is one of the cheaper sets, it would probably have been one of the smaller rec packs that will kind of give you like 200 rec points, a couple of common cards, that kind of thing. But yeah, overall, it's a nice hog, a nice callback to an exclusive, and a nice way to get a couple of main characters in a really cheap format.
The other mention here is that they're starting to play with the suspension now. And so they have these little pieces that you stick on the inside of the, I don't know what those things are called, the little bars with the holes in them. But anyway, that actually gives a little bounce to it, which they haven't had before. This is the first time that they introduced that piece. So this thing you can kind of push down on a little bit and it'll recoil.
That's cool. I didn't know that. I think it's something that they kind of like, from this point on, they've played with a lot. To kind of try and get it right, like you were saying earlier. Yep,
exactly. Any other comments on this, Matt?
I do have. This is where my question is going to come in.
Okay.
So obviously, Tom listed this line, and it had the Scorpion, and it was very centered on Halo 5.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about this set is that it comes with Chief and Arbiter together, and in Halo 5, they don't ever see each other. So I was wondering if you guys think that maybe in early stages of development, there was a level that actually included
100%.
Chief and Arbiter with a Warthog like this, and that's why the set was greenlit.
Ooh.
And that because I know when we first saw gameplay of Halo 5, it was insinuated that Chief was on Sunayon.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's his
assault rifle. Well, exactly. So did we miss out on a Chief and Arbiter Warthog run in Halo 5?
Wow.
I think it's
we
possible.
Might have. Definitely possible.
I think it's safe to say Halo 5 changed a lot.
Yeah.
So I imagine that. I mean, when you look at it, Chief and Arbiter's reunion is literally 30 seconds at the end of a cutscene, and then it's all explored in a novel. I would not be surprised if they had originally planned to have a lot more of this, but it got cut for whatever the new story direction was. And I definitely think that this ties back into the idea, and I won't go off on this too much because I feel like this isn't relevant for our show in particular, but I am really, really fascinated in what a Halo 5 used to be, because I think that we would have potentially had Locke and Chief getting very, very close to each other at different points in the story before they eventually caught one another. And I think that there was certainly a very, very different but very interesting story there at some point.
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. But then we also think about the PAX exclusive, which had these two figures in it, and also the same color Warthog. So it's probably a little bit of a, and Mega's done this. We've already talked about it a few times. That it's an homage to an earlier build or an earlier set. So there, it's maybe it's a combination. Maybe it's both. Who knows?
But Colin, conspiracy theorist here. This has the cracked visor version of Chief, which means that timeline wise, it's after his fight with Locke, which is when Sunayon takes place.
Yeah. So it would make sense in the timeline of the current, the one that we have.
Exactly.
That's canon. Very cool. All right, let's move on to the Troop Warthog. That is the next one on the list. And Tom decided to highlight this one. Why did you decide to do the NMPD Troop Hog?
Okay, so I have got a lot of love for the NMPD subline.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if either of you guys will be aware of this, but the NMPD subline was chosen by fans. So Mega did polls on their social media, and they were running for a few different options, things like civilians, NMPD, and this was the thing that won. And I don't know why. I always have an affinity for Sci-Fi police anyway. I like that Judge Dredd, you gotta love him, so NMPD vibes all the way. But I just think that this is a really cool amalgamation of different designs. So obviously it's the Halo 4 chassis with the roll bars at the front and alongside. But then you've got the kind of Halo 3 vibe troop transport rear to it. And you also have got a very unique addition that you don't see on any other Warthog, which is a light bar on top of it, because obviously it's a police vehicle. So I think that in itself makes it a really, really distinctive Warthog. Obviously, you've got the printed NMPD details, which look great. But the thing that really sold me on this one is I love the figures here. Obviously, you've got two brutes in visor mode. We had only really got a brute chieftain in visor mode before this in the old articulation, so it was cool to get them. And as well as that, you have got 3 NMPD troopers, 2 of whom have got short sleeves. And as far as I am aware, I believe that this pack came out just before the Colonial Marine from Mega in the Mega Construx Heroes line. So this was the only way to get short sleeves in the kind of Halo style and not the Call of Duty style. And I just think in a construction format and in construction sets, it's always really, really cool when you get something unique that you can swap out with other characters. So I can imagine this being a lot of fun for toy photographers and for stop motion artists. Because it provides them with another new element to kind of add unique characteristics to the people who they are using in their stories. So again, I've said in the past, I love the Infinite sets because of the Marine variety. Here, the variety in the human characters really sells it for me.
And I'm trying to remember back to my ODST days. I don't think this exists in game. I don't believe. It's just like the little police cars that they got right, but I don't remember seeing this thing in my last playthrough. So
the Hornet doesn't exist either.
Yeah, that's right. So they came up with the NMPD line, which is cool because these things maybe existed in universe, just not in the game that we played, right, in ODST. But I'm a fan of the line too. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean,
Man,
obviously,
it was just really dark. You couldn't see them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it goes hand in hand with the NMPD Pelican as well, which came out around the same time and also incorporated short sleeve figures. So it was cool to see them go back to the drawing board and think, we've done NMPD troopers in black fatigues, we've done NMPD troopers in navy fatigues. How do we do something different?
Yeah. Well, and really, a lot of these next Warthogs that we're going to list off are just variants of the base Warthog. Which, I guess falls in line with, the game Halo 5 came out in 2015. And, there's probably a little bit of a scramble for shelf space with, the classics, like the one I just mentioned. That was the reason I bought the attack GaussHog, is because, the color wasn't right, but it was like an in-universe type, situation, right? But post-launch, they're coming out with new things, new innovations and whatnot. Which in one of them the next year, and this is the only one that's listed for 2016, is the dual mode Warthog. And this thing, so this is one of the favorites of Richard Martin, our friend of the show from Albrecht's Count. I think he mentioned that this is the first one that he bought, the first Warthog that got him into collecting. I think having collected for a while and then coming to this, the suspension just threw me off. Like, it's so unique, but it doesn't bounce at all, right? Like, I want some of that it made it feel weird right away when building that. It's like, wait a minute, what? The wheels aren't going to go up in this thing. I think the fact that it has like the heavy armor, like it looks tough and you can do a couple different things with it. The figures and the decals are cool, but it felt off to me mainly because of the suspension. Any thoughts on this thing, guys? Tom?
Yeah, so I can remember being... So 2016 is around the time I took a hiatus from collecting. And I can remember being excited for this set, but I also remember being very, very upset with the build for the Gauss turret in this. Because when you look at it, it's not on par with the builds that they did for previous Gauss turrets. I mean, whether it's overscaled or not, you look at the build in the one that we looked at earlier with Arbiter in Chief, and it's just so much more detailed. It's got the rotating chamber, and this just really felt like a step down in detail. And I can remember looking at this set and thinking, I really like the concept behind it with having an up-armored Warthog, but the way that they've added the armor to this one just didn't really gel well with the design to me. It looked a little bit clunky. It looked like it would be really, really awkward to use as an actual vehicle. And I can remember one of the only redeeming factors I liked was in the rocket conversion, you have got the side bits on the doors. And I don't own the set, so I don't know, but I remember just thinking it would be so cool if they could fold down and a figure could like climb up into it like a ladder. So that was, I mean, that is scraping the barrel, but that just shows you how much this set didn't really hit the mark for me personally compared to the other Warthogs we've looked at.
It's got a bunch of cool features. The winch works in this thing. It's got a working winch.
Yeah.
And we only see that one other time here in a little bit. We'll talk about that. But any other thoughts on this thing, Matt, before we move on?
I don't own this set, so I can't really comment on the build quality. The design for me just never grabbed me, and I guess I mean, not owning it is kind of the proof in that. I was just never really impressed with it. It looked kind of cobbled together, not on a design level, but I mean, not on a structural level, but on a design level. It just didn't sing Warthog to me.
No.
Yeah.
I do. One nice thing with it, though, looking at it now, that I think would be quite cool, is you could definitely use this as a base to make a Warthog to go alongside the covert ops vehicles that we got, which I think could look really cool. Like, if you took the fundamental concepts of this hog and then put a chain gun turret or something on the back of it and tidied up some of the extensions on the body of this, I think this would look right at home with the covert ops subline.
Okay, I can see that.
couple little nice touches on it are the is it a wasp on the, or is it a bumblebee decal that they have on the hog itself, and then also on the shoulders for the Spartans themselves, which is cool. So little nice touches. And so again, so this is some people are big fans of this. It's further down the list for me.
I think that the figures here were done because it coincided with the release of a fire team with the same name. I might be making that up, but I know there was a point where there was a fire team that came out with a name, and then a set, whether it was this set or one of the other ones, then had a figure that you could use with that fire team with the logo printed on the shoulder, like you said.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that might be the case. That's not ringing a bell for me right now, but that might be the case. They do. This is the era that they're coming out with a bunch of fire teams too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would make sense. All right, let's move on to. I'm going to mention this one, and this is in 2017 they came out with a UNSC Builder's Forge, and within that set you could build a micro Warthog. I have the Builder's Forge myself. I haven't opened it and played with it yet, and I haven't built the Warthog itself. It looks like a cool little Warthog that you can build. It's different than the other Warthog the micro Warthog that we mentioned before, because that one this build has a chain gun build in it versus the RocketHog version of it. But so it's there. It's a little bit buried, but you can find that set out there and enjoy another little micro Warthog. The next one on the list is 2017, the Capture the Flag CTF Arctic Warthog. And now this one is a couple different things on this. This one has I really like this one, but it's got the working winch as well, similar to what we just saw in the dual mode. And then this one is the first one, and as I've been slowly building Warthogs, preparing for this show, this is the first one that uses the rubber hose as the suspension underneath. And that was when I was building. It's like, what is this all about? I haven't experienced this yet. But pretty much a couple of the future Warthogs use that same suspension type. And I like it now after thinking about it and experiencing it. When I built it right away, I was like, whoa, this is weird. Like, I'm not so sure about this. What do you guys think about, or I guess Matt, what do you think about the suspension on this Warthog?
I like it. This is the first time we've actually seen a more wider suspension on it,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, so it's got a wider stance too. This thing is this thing is ready to tackle.
The wheels stick out a little more, so it gives it. Mm-hmm. So if I have the later a different Warthog, but same kind of design, is it has a nice little bounce to it. Mm-hmm. So if you just kind of want to drive it around, it kind of has that Warthog bounce to it. So the suspension system works great. I think it really shows how far they've evolved.
I'm a little worried that. Evolve. I'm a little worried the little tube is going to break down over time, just with that rubber material. Okay, but other than that, it's cool. It looks mean, like the detailing on it is cool. The chain gun's great. I like the capture the flag aspect of it. They also released a blue team pack set that you could pair with this to do, a capture the flag type situation. Yeah. That's a little flag itself that comes with it, and some, an armor crate. So it's a cool little package. I recommend picking it up. I kind of wish they came out with one like this that was green, but hey, spoiler, we get one soon. So.
I absolutely adore the printed details on this one.
Yeah.
I think that this is absolutely a masterclass in how printed details really make a model pop, because obviously you've got all of the lining around the hood, you've got the black details right next to the access way into the vehicle, you've got the snow speckling on the windscreen, and then you've also got loads of detail on the tires. And I can't remember if it's happened again since, but I'm fairly confident that this is the only time that they've printed on the tire piece, which is actually quite a rubbery material.
Yeah.
So it was really cool seeing them going all out with this and making this a real collector's piece.
Yep, definitely. Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on to actually I'm going to mention okay, I'll mention this one first. The Forge Hog. So now we're in 2018. The Forge Hog versus Banished Goliath. This thing, I just built it, is a beast. This thing is huge. It's like the biggest Warthog you can buy outside of the anniversary collection one. It's got a wide stance. It's long. Well, it's longer because it's got more detailing. It's just beefier, this thing. Mm-hmm. And it's got the and it's a Halo Wars 2 tie-in with Sergeant Forge as being one of the leaders, even though he's dead in universe. But you know what? We stop killing off our Halo
He
characters, right?
survived just like George.
Oh right, yeah, I forgot about that. So it's a good recreation of the in-game version of this Warthog. It's mean looking, that's for sure. And if you don't, I mean, I can see how people maybe wouldn't like the way that it looks, but it's a rolling little tank thing. Like this thing is a beast. It's got a cool little drone that you can put in the top. It's got a clear piece to make it look like it's floating above that. So yeah, I would say it's worth the buy, just to have, if nothing else, just to have the customizable pieces that you get from it. But it's a pretty cool set. It also uses the same rubber hose suspension underneath it as well. Anything to comment on before we move on?
I absolutely love all of the armor on it. I know that I believe there was concept art for a hog like this a very, very long time ago. It possibly might have been something that Marcus did when he was doing the concept art for Combat Evolved. And it's always been something I love, because, I mean, when you look at the Warthog, it is an LRV, which is a light reconnaissance vehicle. So obviously it's kind of like a Dune FAV of today that the Marines and Raiders and whatnot use. So it's not designed to be heavily armored, but I think it does make sense that you have a version with more protection. So I always thought that was really cool. But I'm interested, Colin. So obviously you've got the folding doors.
Yeah.
How hard is it to put a figure inside because of that?
It's a little bit difficult. You gotta squeeze them in there a bit, but to actually get the doors to go down all the way, because a lot of the times I'll have my guy, his head sticking out the top, and he can't really see. He's looking at the roll bar, but that's okay because it's minifigures. So it's you have to work on it a little bit, and then to get the door to close, but it does work.
Cool. I was going to say the only other thing I'm not a fan of, but this is more just personal preference, is the inclusion of the missile launcher in the Gauss turret. Because I feel like that does damage the design a little bit. But I think this was a time where Mega thought that they had to appeal to children as well as adult collectors. And now with the prevalence of the Black Series, you see that they are slowly beginning to shift more to collectors again. So I reckon that play features like this are probably things that we won't see in the future. Or if we do see play features, they're going to be less intrusive on the models, like the 2-in-1 builds.
Yeah. Well, and just a comment on the little shooter, and a lot of recent sets have this little guy.
Yeah.
If you shoot it, like, that thing is gone. Like, it shoots so much faster and a higher velocity than the Lego version of this.
Yeah.
Of their little shooters. They plus they use little pegs, and this is a different little missile feature. So it's cool and it's got playability, but I feel like if you're gonna fire it at a vehicle that's like a foot away, you may have hit it, you may not have, you heard something, and then you got to find it. So I think it's a cool concept using this little pressure system that they have going, but it's a little too good.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say, I have a lot to say about this set as well.
Yeah.
I like Forge in this set. I don't like the head. It looks worse than the hero's head, but I like that they made tweaks to his armor. So it now has how many elites he's killed, and he also has got the Ace of Spades on one of the shoulder plates.
Yeah.
I think that's a really, really nice touch.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so we decided not to feature this one, but we kind of featured it. It's very unique. Another thing I guess I'll comment on, since we're talking about it, is building this thing was a little bizarre. Like, you build it, in all of the Warthogs you build a little bit different, but they're kind of all the same. They make innovations along the way, but this one was very different. This one felt for me very different to build this thing. And you're upside down, and you're building, when you build the middle section of the Warthog, that felt different. You kind of built two sections of it, and then you applied it to the middle, and then you have this mean looking front fender in the front. So yeah, it was a very interesting build.
So I'm going to put some pressure on you guys right on the show now.
Okay.
This is one of the few sets that has popped up in the UK, and it's on Amazon UK right now for £40. Is it worth it?
40?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say, because the Banished Goliath that comes along with it, it's a beast. It's really cool.
Looks like I'm spending some money tonight.
So yeah, for the set itself and then that thing, definitely grab it. Okay, let's move on to the other set that came out in 2018, but I feel like this one was delayed, and I think it was, and I wasn't collecting at the time quite then, but this is the Halo, the Security Patrol Warthog, so it's the yellow one. And I didn't like it at first. I looked at it, I was like, ugh. And then I finally saw it at GameStop, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna grab this thing. I think I grabbed it for $30 or something like that. And it's really grown on me. The color has grown on me. The turret in the back has grown on me. I really like its simplicity. It's like one big old piece. And this is a reason that makes me feel like it was delayed. And I think I'm almost positive it was delayed. I've heard people talk about their delayed orders, but it uses that same weird suspension piece that we talked about in the Attack GaussHog back from 2015, and then also the NMPD Warthog. So, and plus this is featured in Halo 5. Like, this vehicle itself is featured in Halo 5 back in 2015. So it feels like they maybe they had it designed and then it got held back for some reason. I don't know. But in my mind, it's a neat little set, and having like the unique color of it is a cool thing.
So you talk about it being delayed. This is right around when the availability of Mega Construx started to change in the US as well. So this is where things like this set would pop up at Ross's instead of at places like Target and Walmart.
Oh, okay.
And this is right around the time that Walmart temporarily dropped Mega Construx, I believe. Because I remember when I came out to Pittsburgh, it's about when this set should have been on shelves, and hopefully this will ring a bell to you guys, but the only thing that actually ended up popping up on shelves, apart from the smaller products, set-wise, was Kinsano's Cyclops. And that was about it. And that was meant to have the same release window as this, but obviously that got a much wider release. One cool thing that this one does as well is the Halo 5 turret, which is only seen in this and I believe the only troop pack.
The turret?
Yeah, the sculpt that shoots.
Oh, and a troop pack. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I like it. It's unique. I haven't seen it before outside of this vehicle. And yeah, I think right around 2018 into 2019, Walmart slowly started to not carry any Mega. And at one point, it wasn't in stores at all. At one point, there was 0 Mega in any Walmart. And now they're back in shelf. And I would imagine they're going to ramp up as we get closer to Infinite.
Yeah, definitely.
The only thing I would say about this set, and I've come across it a couple times on Amazon, and I've thought about pulling the trigger, just the color and the way I think it kind of looks to me is it kind of screams prototype, and it just kind of looks like a prototype for some reason to me. So I've never been too keen on it.
Yeah. So you can pair it with the security. There's 2 security Cyclops, like an old version and then a newer version of it. So you can pair it with those things and have like a little bit of a security, I don't know, setup, and you're in a diorama or something like that. But there's not much else in the line, so it does feel like a little bit of an oddball.
One thing that surprised me that we never got in the line, and this is kind of almost going back to our last episode with ideas, I'm very surprised that we never got any Meridian Minor minifigures. I think it would have been cool to see them included here, or they could have done. So obviously, I think this is just before they started the Versus format for the Versus packs. But it would have been cool to see something like 2 different coloured Meridian Miners versus 2 not Spartan soldiers, Promethean soldiers, since we've never got many of them. I think that would be something that would still be quite welcome, purely because those miners had such a cool sci-fi design to them.
Yeah, the other thing to mention on this is that, and I'm just remembering this, is that the pack out was widely wrong. It included extra set of wheels and a bunch of extra pieces in the original box. I think they might have sorted that out eventually, but some manufacturing error, like you got a bunch of extra wheels and some other pieces in it as like upon release and in the window after that.
Yeah. A lot of people got double the figures.
It might have been double the figures also. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
imagine having 2 of that Elite Commander.
The figures
that's the best part of the
figures are right. Figures are right in there. But yeah, I'm sure that was a big bummer for Mega, but it was, the fans were okay with it. All right, now we're on to the last hog. Well, so the 25th hog is the one that we know about, but it isn't released yet, and so we'll talk about that one in a separate show. So that's the Infinite Warthog is the 25th hog, but the 24th hog is Warthog Run that came out in 2019, and this is almost perfection, right, Marina?
It is perfection. There's no almost about it, Colin.
It's close. It's
close. Okay. Take us through it.
Okay, so we have the Warthog Run, which basically covers Chief and Arbiter's narrow escape from Halo 3. It comes with Master Chief in his Halo 3 design and our Arbiter. This one retailed for $29.99, and it had 318 pieces.
That's a lot for a Warthog.
It is. Yeah. I think a lot of it also goes to the hunters that came with it.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and the hunters were there as well, which are the best hunters we have ever seen in design and in quality.
The articulation is great. I feel like I've heard people complain about certain things, but you can't argue with that articulation.
I have 6 of them.
Nice.
What?
Yeah.
Jeepers. I have 5, but they're not all the same color. So I have 2 of the Warthog Runs, but one's still in box, and then I have the Remnant Hunter. So the same 5 are the articulation of that one.
Nice.
Yeah. Nice. But so this Warthog, I want to say it's basically the culmination of all the other Warthogs that we've talked about. It is the pinnacle of what has evolved.
Evolved.
We're gonna start a drinking game. Everybody drink when we say evolved.
Where's my whiskey?
So this one again, it has really nice printed on pieces, and it has a nice little scuff to it, so it looks like this Warthog has seen a little action. The suspension system is very much the CTF Arctic Warthog.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, personally,
okay,
the wider design, though it does add a nice kind of bounce to it, I don't necessarily like it compared to the thinner design. I think the wheels stick out just a little too much.
Sure.
And I think that it kind of harms it a little bit, and it's a little stockier too, so not as long, and it's a little wider, so it just it looks game accurate to the core. It's just compared to the other ones, I kind of like that sleeker, thinner design, and that's where I kind of say that it's probably not perfection in my mind, because I think we all agree that the Warthog Resistance is the best Warthog, and I think that's the design and the scale and the proportions that I like.
And the color green.
Exactly, exactly.
So this is the new green. This is the new green?
It is. Yeah, this is the metallic green.
Okay.
Apparently the Infinite sets may be slightly more speckled. My friend who was at Toy Fair said that the color green there was a little bit different again, but I have a feeling that we're just going to be sticking with this green. I think it will end up being this color scheme for a while now.
Yeah, Scorpion and Hawk are the same color as this.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that it was shorter, but I'm comparing it to the other hogs that I have out right now. It's a little stubby. That's weird. I mean, that's fine. It looks good. You know, I have no problem with that, but I just didn't notice that. Yeah, he's a chubby little guy. It's good.
So I thought when I first got this, I'm like, great, I'll be able to fit like comfortably, because I know you can kind of cram them in there, but you could fit comfortably. I was thinking you could comfortably fit 2 of these Warthogs in the Mammoth. Not so.
Oh,
they're just a little too wide.
Because they're wide, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I go back and forth on the wideness, because I feel like while the old ones look quite like nice and streamlined, when you look at the hog in Halo 3 in particular, which this is based off of, it does look a little bit chunky. Like it does look like the wheels come out a little bit. And I can remember, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, this particular model really, really throws me back to the 5.5-inch scale Warthog that McFarlane did for the Halo Reach line. I don't know why, but I feel like this is so similar to that in terms of like the dimensions and everything here.
I love the chain gun itself. It really hasn't changed since that Warthog
No.
Resistance. It's the same model, but like the ammo, what do you call it, with all the bullets in it?
Bullet belt.
Yeah, the belt. I like that pops, how that pops
Yeah.
in it. The coloration. I like this new green. I'm into it, and I'm excited just to get more vehicles that have the same green, because I think it could be something that I'd like to see that people do mocks with with this new color.
Yeah.
But and the build I thought it's a really good build. Building this thing, I was like, oh yeah, they're doing some cool things with this. And again, it's probably the same that we've seen, but just little nuances to the build I thought have been improved. And there's little detailing underneath, like you can see the actual, like where the shocks would be, the springs underneath. They've added some detailing over time that are just little touches. Does this thing have an engine too? I forget. I didn't pop mine open.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay. It must be a different one. Different.
It does have some nice little control pieces in the cab itself.
Yes.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we've seen that in other Warthogs. I'm cautiously trying to pick some up.
Yeah, the Warthog does. I know because I've seen a review of that. They came in at some point because they never used to. I know that the Reach RocketHog didn't have them.
Yeah.
I don't think Warthog Resistance has them inside.
I just picked up the Night Gauss, and that one does, but I want to say that's a sticker.
Yeah, because they did stickered ones for a little bit, and then they started printing them. It was one of the few things that they'd never really done, so that's something that you'll notice. That the interiors of the hogs start to get more detailed. So I'm actually... Talk amongst yourselves for a second, guys. I'm going to go and grab something.
Oh, okay. I actually wanted to touch upon something that we didn't cover with the Night Ops GaussHog, is that it has a nice little piece in the center console that allows for the Pelican to carry this Warthog.
Oh, okay.
Because the Pelican for the Halo 4 gunship Pelican has this little piece that comes down with it's a little clamp, and so all you have to do for the GaussHog is take off the the crossbar piece, and then it's able to pick it up and hold it. Same thing with the Mantis. The first Mantis that came out also had a similar piece so that the Pelican could hold it, even though a Pelican dropping off a Mantis. Yeah, the Pelican dropping off a Mantis is ridiculous.
The Forge Hog is meant to work with that Frost Raven, where that can pick that thing up too. We didn't mention that, but yeah, lots of little cool playability things.
So I think it is the Forge Hog, and Colin, you can perhaps confirm this, or it might be another one I've seen, but they've been slowly adding more and more detail to the hogs, and there's one of them that inside the canopy area, it's got a little screen piece on the passenger side, like hanging down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see here. The one of them that I built recently had that. Which one was it? I think it was the Arctic one. Yeah, the Forge Hog doesn't have it.
I've got the Halo 3 one because I thought it was this one, Warthog one, but it's not this one. But I just remember seeing that and being really impressed.
It's the Arctic one, the capture the flag one. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I think that in itself really shows how much Mega have progressed. The fact that they've gone from having no console pieces to now having custom printed pieces, and also a little piece in the Warthog Run one that represents the handbrake for the hog. Really just shows how much they've really iterated and grown in terms of levels of detail. And I think that's the hogs are a really good way of showing this, that as they've kind of settled into the franchise and have begun to develop more customized pieces, things have got really, really unique details that you really don't see with anything else. Like, I mean, even Lego, if they did something like this, it would be all stickers. They wouldn't go to this level of commitment with it.
Yep, totally agree. Awesome. Any other thought? Like this has been a pretty good dive. We've gone for a while. We've covered lots of hogs. Any other last comments, Matt, before we close the show?
I just have to say, looking at the beginning model and looking at the end model that we have right now, it's a testament to Mega Construct and their design quality. It's a testament to how hard these guys have put in. It's a testament to the fans that have continued to buy all these different variations of Warthogs and really kind of just showed how far these Warthogs have Evolved.
Evolve.
Evolved. When I think, and I think I mentioned
Flashback,
this
guys, I
in one of my shows. No, I got one too. Remember?
promise.
When I think about vehicles in Halo, Warthog is obviously top of mind, and then number 2 is Ghost for me. Like I always hop in that Ghost, and so maybe we'll do a Ghost show as well. But like you can't argue. Like there's been or there will be 25 of these things, but for good reason, right? Like this is the iconic vehicle from Halo.
It's a good word for it. Iconic.
Yeah.
All right, I think that'll do it. That'll do it for our show. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining Builds with Blocks. We covered a lot. Love to hear your comments, your thoughts. Please send your or post comments in the video or send us an email, whatever you have. Love to hear from you. Anything you guys want to mention before we close the show?
No, just like we said at the top of the show, thank you for all of the support. I think we are all having a blast doing this, and it's been really nice for us because we kind of all just the 3 of us just kind of fell into a chat together and we're like, oh, we all kind of want to do this thing. Obviously, Colin, you already had the connection with Podcast Evolved.
Yeah.
And I was waiting to see if either of you were going to do it then. Then
I've used up all my turns.
We just fell into it from that, but it's been really, really fun recording this, making 2 awesome new friends who are really into the hobby as well. And I'm just excited to keep going with this. So thank you to everyone who is here at the end, sticking with us as always, listening into our episodes.
Definitely. I will say thank you to all the fans, and also huge shout out to the OGs at Podcast Evolve for letting us do this show. It really is such an amazing thing to do, talk about with 2 collectors that love this stuff as much as I do. So thank you guys so much. It's been a blast. It's being a blast. Hopefully we can keep going.
Yeah.
Awesome. And we love that you're with us and love that you're viewing on YouTube or listening to us in your favorite podcast. If you want to go beyond that, you definitely can. You can support us on Podcast Evolved on Patreon. Until next time, evolved.
Evolved.
Evolved.